All right. I would like to call to order this law committee meeting. Today is December 7th, 2020. The time is 5:35. Roll call, Ms. Lisa.
Councilman Durant Daniel.
Present.
Councilwoman Laverne Mitchell. Okay, no response. Vice Mayor Jeannie Stenson.
Present.
We have two who are present, one who is absent. We do have a quorum.
On up the agenda for everybody to see. As you can see, we're on spot 3, so if everybody bow their heads for a quick prayer, please. Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for another day. Thank you for allowing us to come together in this forum, allowing everybody to stay safe. We always know you have a plan, Heavenly Father, and we just thank you that you're allowing us to be tools in your plan. Thank you, and allow those who are continuing to move about, who are working to get towards this meeting, Heavenly Father, please allow them to get to their destination safely. And please bless this meeting and the next one after this. In your son Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Can I have a motion to accept the previous law committee minutes from November 2nd, 2020 with any necessary corrections, please?
I motion that we accept the previous law committee minutes.
I second that motion. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No nays, no abstentions. Great. On the old business, and I'm going to type this in too as we talk about it, just for my notes purposes. But some of the goals that we had. Lost my share screen window there. Sorry. There we go. So some of the goals that we had last year, and just over the past, which is crazy now, it's been 3 years we've been on this law committee meeting, this law committee. So I know some we talked about signage and just making sure that all of our signs are up to regulation, up to code. I know that was one of the first ones that I had. We'll continue to still work through that. So I'm just going to put street signs on this one. I definitely don't want to make this long. I know the second one that we talked about, and this is one that's big on, that's been very, very big with Ms. Laverne and all of us really, has been the code enforcement piece and trying to really solidify just how we go about enforcing code enforcement. It seems like it's almost been like trying to put healthcare in place or something like that, but it's increased, just make sure code enforcement, oh my gosh, please allow me to spell, no red line. And then the last one, and that was the last one we kind of just talked about, Ms. Jeannie, and we said
junk cars.
Junk cars, especially with the code enforcement. Junk cars. And then the last one I was going to talk about, we just said policies, just making sure that our policies are up to date and up to snuff. We just kind of never really, and I know we jumped around a little bit. We never really we just nailed one down. When we kind of started talking about it, really, Ms. Linda, started talking about really COVID had hit, and then we kind of shifted towards code enforcement. But I just want to put policies and rules of counsel.
And procedures, yeah. Policies and procedures.
Yeah.
And this was for the village, right? The whole village. Yep.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right. So that's just been kind of what we've been working on over the past 3 years. And it's kind of been good. Titus kind of helped me see it too. So successes in the street signs. We've got all the new blue ones up. The things that we need to work on. Well, matter of fact, and I think that could take us into new business. Anything on this list right now, you want to still just kind of harp upon over 2019, over 2020, before we take it over into 2021?
I'm just waiting so we can just carry it on over.
Yeah. Anybody else? I know a couple other members of council have jumped on before we carry it over. So Ms. Key, Ms. Linda Childs Jeter, or Jamal, any comments on this? If not, we're just gonna move over to new business. We're just gonna kind of gonna talk about the same thing.
I'm good, Councilman Daniels.
Yes, ma'am. All right. So in new business in 2021 goals, we're pretty much on the same thing, just how we're gonna kind of continue to push about it. So where I see street signs as a goal to get done for as far as law enforcement, or not law enforcement, as far as the law committee.
But I thought those were done.
Well, the signs are in place, but as you can see, and then I'll let Ms. Pope continue to go about it. Some of them are not permanently in place, and all of our stop signs are not in place yet. So we got all the street signs in place. So making sure that all of our stop signs are at regulation height, and then just permanently putting them in the ground. Those are just my goals for street signs for 2021. Ms. Pope, did you have, if Ms. Pope or Jamal, did you have any comments on that? If not, we can continue to keep it moving, but those are just my goals for 2021. This is a great meeting.
I got plenty to say.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. To me, a goal is something that you can achieve. So I wanted to kind of put street signs on like a goal that we achieved for this year.
Yeah.
Can this be like maybe street signs part 2? Because I'll feel like I didn't achieve anything in law if I can't check something off as.
You know, we'll call it stop signs. We'll focus specifically on the stop signs this year to make sure that all the stop signs are up. And let's
call them safety signs because they're all not stop signs, safety signs or something like that.
Yes,
I just need to, in my head, Mr. Daniels, I need to feel like I accomplished something.
No, yes, ma'am. And they're,
And I tell the kids at school, a goal is something that you can achieve. If it's as simple as walking down the hallway quietly, you achieve that goal. I got to make it something positive.
Amen. Amen. I love our signs, especially when you leave the village. I think it's something that gives us a different identity. So I love them. All right, so cool. Code enforcement and junk cars. This might be the hardest one to kind of really sink our teeth into. And it's more so just being able on how we're going to enforce it, right? Or what's the policy and procedure to get it done, I guess. It seems like where we left off, there is a sticker system in place. And I've seen some stickers from time to time riding around. I've seen some stickers in place. But has that been, I guess, once again, back to your point, Ms. Jeannie, what does success look like? And how do we, what does success look like from a code enforcement standpoint? So, Ms. Pope, I'm gonna actually refer to you on this one, just to ask you, when we started putting more stickers on the cars over the past, I've seen them lately since the summer, has there been an improvement in removal of those junk cars?
Well, the Sheriff's Department has been assisting with us removing the vehicles. I think we got stuck in the language that's in our that's on our website as far as junk cars, and I think that we got stuck on either the sheriff or the police. So I think we were going back and forth with whether they could remove it, but the sheriff, Lieutenant Boeing, he did have his guys ticketing the cars and giving them a certain amount of time, and then they would remove them.
Is that still going on though, Ms. Pope? Because we don't have Lieutenant Boeing anymore. Aren't we on another chief?
Yeah, I think there was some extensions as far as tickets that the state had put in force, where the sheriffs weren't ticketing because of but so right now, Lieutenant Jeremy, I know he's freshly started, so he hasn't I don't think he's has issued anything for removal.
Sir Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry if I can't see everybody's hands up because I have the share screen up, so feel free to just jump in. Yes, ma'am.
You can't see my face anyway. I have it blacked out for right now. I'm learning. Are we talking about junk cars on the streets? Or are we talking about junk cars in the yard?
Both, I guess both, but I guess, and that's a good point. Do we need to separate them for the sake of the goals? Because once again, Ms. Jeannie, you brought up a good point to the last one. We want our goals to be something that's achievable, and we only got a year. Do we want to focus on just the ones on the street this year, and then hopefully next year we're still here in 2022 to deal with the ones on private property?
Yeah,
Or
the private property is it. The sheriff can't go on there and take those off without code enforcement. However, if they have the law in place, they can send a thing to the property owner.
Okay, so
This sounds like two different things right here,
Yeah.
Mr. Daniels.
yeah, because when we start dealing with private property.
Mhm. Well,
So-
I think that, can I speak?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Sir Chair. I'm thinking, I know that our new village manager is listening, and she may or may not have had an opportunity to look at what our previous manager had put in place with those things that, you know, they can't be reproduced or whatever. So maybe she's listening and she's soaking it in, letting it marinate, and may come up with something different or a different suggestion. But it sounds like it's two different things. I think the one on the street would be easier for us to deal with
Okay.
than the ones in somebody's yard.
May I
Yard.
weigh in? May I weigh in?
Hmm?
Vice Mayor Simpson, I agree. I think we should start off with something small and start by ticketing on the street. And we can create a process of how they do it here in city of Cincinnati. We don't have to go out and reinvent another wheel. It's already processes in place, and we can follow that, notify the community that if this is going to be an increase in ticketing, and maybe notifying them of that is to come, and communicate with the new lieutenant about what we want. And then over time, let's come back and look at and see what is happening based upon what we put in place. And check to see, okay, if we did file a site, we could do random checks, random audits, that if we did, ticket cars, and what they do is mark the tires, that they move and then come back. Did they come back and they're doing the same thing over? Because that's not what we want to happen. We want a permanent move. If the car doesn't have doesn't have plates, and doesn't have a valid sticker,
Inoperable.
black tires, all of that kind of stuff, those are the things that we can prioritize to say, then it warrants a ticket. And then how do you escalate that, over time? That's my thought, that maybe we can come up with that pretty easy.
Okay.
Oh, no, anything else on that? She did bring up another good point when it came to just the tags as well. Moving to 2021, obviously, with 2020 and, COVID, our sheriffs will start or should start more watching those whose tags have not been up to date in 2020. Obviously there was a little leniency among the state. And obviously with that getting kicked back into place, and that is a reason why your car could be towed. We just want to make sure that everything we have, like you just said, Vice Mayor and Village Manager Powdrill, that our procedures are clear, they're understandable, and that we communicate them to the residents. So if nobody else has anything on that particular issue, I think we got some good pieces to kind of work out at code enforcement for next year.
Yeah, Mr. Daniels, I think that's a good idea, since we already have some procedures in place for the cars on the street. The ones that are in your private yard, we still gonna have to keep working on that.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But But I also would say that the one thing that we can look at, we don't want to hit them too hard. We're going to be going through a tough time in 2021, and so we don't want to tax people to that extreme. But I think that if it's even and it's in your driveway, it should have valid plates.
So, yes, and maybe not. Some of the tags may not have been up to date. Just once again, because of once again due to COVID, they allow some restrictions on that. So some people's tags are not up to date.
Well, you still can get your tag. I mean, you still can get your sticker.
Yeah. Well,
So
yes.
so why? I'm asking a question. This is you guys'
Yeah,
decision.
I hear what you're saying, Miss Powdrill, because that's what I had to do. I did mine online to
Mhm.
still get a sticker. However, some people will take advantage of that fact that if you don't get it renewed, that you still have grace period. And I agree with that, simply because we have seniors or people that really are not, they can't get on the computer. They don't have a computer, don't have access or whatever reason.
Mhm.
But those people are not the people that have junk cars in the yard.
Right.
So I don't see that being an issue, because those are not the people with the junk cars.
That's true.
Yeah.
And
That's true. That's true.
Chairman,
Good stuff.
Chairman Daniel,
Yes, ma'am.
this
Yes,
process,
ma'am.
this has been going on for years. That they just park their cars on your, or either they will put a car in the back and they will park their car in the front so you won't see it. Also, I've got several cars about cars being moved around.
Mhm.
So you see it in one place, then you see it in another place, and then it's all over Lincoln Heights. So those things have to be considered too. And I would like to suggest for your law committee that you hire a person just to do code enforcement. Doesn't have to be a full-time person, but that person is only does code enforcement. That's it. Thank you.
And I have one additional question. Have you in the past encouraged residents to call in when they see a car that do they call in when they see a car that has outdated plates or abandoned or whatever?
Yes, they have called me. I don't know about other council members, but they definitely called me when they see a car that's been sitting too long or that it has no license plates. Sheriff Lieutenant Bourne actually went up and had some moved. I think it was Lieutenant Bourne. It may have been the one before that. We seem to be getting someone new from the sheriff department every so many months. So they were the cars. It was two cars in the Villas of the Valley that was moved, and then one's on Lindy Street up by Old Tabernacle, the church on the corner of Lindy and Wayne Avenue is a wonderful parking space for those who don't have tags.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that, and going along with Ms. Charles Jeters has said, this has been happening for a long time. I think the village has gotten a lot better than what it had been previously. But I think anytime that we don't continue the enforcement, it kind of creeps back to where we are now. We'll start seeing stray cars. We'll start seeing cars parked in little coveys and things like that. But I think as far as your laws, I think the laws are on the books. I think it's worth just going back and revisiting them and executing them. I do recall having a great conversation on what would be the penalties if such things were not followed through, as far as anybody who was fell into code enforcement issues or fell into issues with their vehicles. And I think that had been straightened out. So I would just implore you to go back and look, and things may have changed and we may have to revisit that. But instead of reinventing, the policies or the processes, go back to what we already have in place and just enforce again.
And I think one of the biggest just things that are on the books, and once again, this gets into another committee's conversation, but just when we asked about updating the language of sheriff and chief of police, even that has, that seems like it's been one of the biggest hurdles, and I'm not sure why that's even been such a rough issue. So agreed, Councilmember Key. I think everything is on the books. It's just from our end, it seems like we're getting law advice. And if I'm mistaken, if another council member wants to correct me, please do so. But it seems like we're getting law advice that our code does not reflect the enforcement that we would like.
Well,
That
Mr.
that
Chair,
our book, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I would think it would be a matter of a motion to produce an ordinance that says anything that says police or whatever it says, that we change it to something, like law enforcement. We could make it whatever language we want to make it, but
we did that. We did
shouldn't
that.
let
Go ahead,
Mr. Daniels, I think we're holding on to old things. I don't think that they feel that way. That was one person that was in charge, that when we asked them why didn't they do this, that's the reason that they gave us. It was only that one person that did that. And since then, everybody behind him, we just believe that that's what they believe. But I don't think that that is the case. We've had 5, 6 different chiefs since I've been here. They all have been different.
Okay.
Like the Boeing started again doing things, and you started seeing the sheriff more visible, but now we have somebody else again. So we don't know if they're gonna drop the ball and just do like the one guy did and just talk crazy about us, or are they really gonna do their job? We do have some people that are in charge that they really do try to make a difference. Boeing brought things to the community that was helpful. They all don't do that. Some of them make excuses. So I don't think it really had anything to do with the language. I think that was the excuse that we were given from that individual. So I'm trying not to hold a grudge against that and just keep it moving. Police, sheriff, coppers, 5-0, they're all the same.
Does our law solicitor agree with that?
I think that's what he even said.
Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
It has to do with if they can enforce those codes the way that it is written. Those are Lincoln Heights. So when you're dealing with the sheriff department, they are totally different than when we had our own police here. So you got to have some language in that will allow you to do what that code says or change the code.
And we made a motion. I think we did this like 2 years ago, to update anything in our code that said sheriff to say chief of police. That was one of our first goals that we did like 2 years ago. And yeah, I'm sorry, Ms. Pope, you were doing the finger wag thing. You go ahead and just pop on in, because I can't see everybody. So go ahead, pop on in.
Oh, I was gonna wait until you were finished, but if we go out on our American Legal Publishing, we do have the right to remove junk vehicles declared a nuisance, and that language is the village manager the village manager or his or her representative can remove that on private property. Now, if it's a vehicle that's left on a public property, that's when the chief of police language is there.
And once again, we made a motion for that to be changed, and it's still not there on American Legal. And once again, if I'm not mistaken, I believe our solicitor told us that would be an additional fee to get that changed, even though we made a motion for it to be changed. So we can bring that back up to 2021 again. That's one of our goals.
Mr. Daniel,
yes, ma'am.
I believe that had to do with the contract.
With
the sheriff contract.
Oh, okay.
I think that's where that landed, but you can find out. Miss Donna got her finger going again.
Yeah, I'll send the email. I'll send the email to everybody so we can keep this moving, so that way we don't get brought up on it. But yes, Ms. Pope, go ahead, please.
Okay, one last thing. The junk vehicles declared a nuisance was passed on 4/9/2018. That the villager can have his or her representative shall be authorized to have junk vehicles disposed.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of just moving forward to 2021, like you said, Ms. Jean, just keep this thing moving forward and make sure we get this thing done. So anybody else on that one? That was a good conversation on junk cards, because the last one can get a little bit dicey as well, just getting policies, procedures, and rules of counsel. Just want to make sure we were done with that as we move on to part 3. All righty. Goal number 3 is just policies, procedures, and rules of counsel. So
Rules of counsel is what it is.
we can always adjust them or change if we need to change them. Like for instance, if we need to make a rule in place, like some members of council might not like the fact that some people are on boards that could be a conflict of interest to some of the things that you do on council. So if we need to talk about making rules of council that you can't sit on council and also be on a board that deals with council, those are some of the things that we could talk about, for instance, rules of council as policies and procedures. Like that's just, I know we continue to talk about, and I know this even for simple, just policies and procedures on, when a thing is going to be turned in, or even from our perspective, as rules of council, when are we going to have our reports done? Those type of things, just to, if we need to clean them up or make them more efficient.
Madam Chair, I think there's the wrong committee for the policies and procedures and rules of council. That comes through the mayor's office, I believe.
Okay, all right. Well,
I think she should probably take the lead on that. I may be wrong, but I don't think it belongs in law.
Okay. So I know we had talked about some policies and procedures, and I just know rules, So I kind of saw some things that might, like, I guess I saw my Venn diagram where some of those things might intersect. So if not, I definitely want to make sure we stay in our lane for sure. So I know policies and procedures was something that Ms. Jeannie, I know that was something that you cared about. So was there one particular that you might have had, that was just one that I had a thought of. So there's something that you want to speak upon, policies and procedures, or we might be good on it.
Nothing in particular. I just think that they need to be tightened up, because every time something happens, we ask a question and it's something that should be already in our policies and procedures. Okay. That's it. Okay.
So I'm going to actually erase that and just keep these two for 2021, because I think just dealing with code enforcement and just making sure our safety signs are up, and then revisit this back in the mid-year. I think that's a good place to go. So do you have any objections with our goals for 2021?
I do not.
Yes, ma'am. Well,
however,
great.
I'm sure Ms. Mitchell, once she gets on or whatever, she may have something she might want to add, but she's not here right now. So
for sure. So moving on, we're on the miscellaneous business. The only miscellaneous business that I had, it is more so an ask, and it's back to, I guess, policies and procedures. So obviously, my brother's keeper, us as a council, we decided that, we agreed with the mission of my brother's keeper, making sure our reading was up to par and those type of things. The ask that I'm asking for council is, our back meeting room. And if there were spaces, or if there were times, if young men, and I don't even know if we are open now, or if we can even do those type of things, but if I was a young man and I needed to do some homework, or I needed a space to just kind of do some type of office space as a young person, and we set up a desk, and there's already those 2 desks there specifically for the computers, but if we set up a desk and we call it, it could be we can have it sponsored or whatever. And if we need to talk about monetary pieces, that can be a conversation to happen down the road as well. But my ask is, if we set up a type of desk in that back space where young men in our community can come, and like I said, if I need to write a resume or if they need to do some homework, they can have that space. Would that be something that could council might be interested in and having in that in our back meeting room? Obviously, hours would have to be discussed, so it doesn't interfere with anybody else's time. And if we needed to, try to reserve spots. That'll be something as well. But just sharing that space and allowing our young men to kind of have a space and feeling welcome in Village Hall, I think is important, because once again, the
Mr.
fact
Daniels.
that, yes, ma'am.
I think that what you need to do is ask the mayor if you could put this on committee of the whole.
Okay.
I think this is something that you need to have a discussion with all of council.
Okay.
Do you
Okay.
understand what I'm saying? Because whatever, yeah, I don't think it's a bad discussion, but let's see if we could discuss this in the committee of the whole. See if
Okay.
the mayor will put it on the agenda.
That's cool. I'm good with that.
Mhm.
All right. So
You saying, okay, yeah, let's have a discussion with, because you keep saying young men and we got young women in the village too.
yeah, and we do. And there's a space for that too. And let me stop sharing. Let me stop sharing my screen. And that way, because, and that's even a part of MBK, and we understand that. And at this point, I'm taking my, I guess I'm speaking from a MBK member. We understand that brothers in the community, they don't achieve their goals and they don't fulfill their true fulfillment or not empowered without the Black women in the community as well. We understand that, we know that, and there's a space for that. Ladies of Leadership kind of has that space, but for our guys, I don't think that's set up yet. But
Mr. Daniels also, and this is just Jeannie Stinson, not Vice Mayor Stinson. This is Jeannie Stinson. I think that when you do things like this, and I think that a representative from My Brother's Keeper, other than you, because to me, that's where the conflict of interest part come in. You know what I'm saying? I think that if somebody else came in, I don't know how to say this. I don't know how I'm trying to say this, but I'm trying to say it gentle.
That's fine.
Let's invite them to come to a committee of the whole and allow them to present.
That makes sense to me. I love that idea. Especially with some of our youth ambassadors, letting them be the speakers of it. I love that idea. So I'll pass it on to Mayor and see if our president, Cord Tillmeyer, and one of our youth ambassadors who've been doing a lot of the good work, whether it's Johnny or Nas, can come on Monday. So I love that idea, Vice Mayor. Love that idea. Okay. Anything else for miscellaneous business? Like I said, the last meeting of the year, 2020 has been a crazy year. I thank you all at this committee over these past 3 years. I think we got some good things done. So I didn't want to make our last meeting too long. So
thank you.
And Village Manager Ms. Joyce Powdrill, did you have any questions from a law committee standpoint on what our goals have been in the past, where we're moving forward from this committee at all, or anything we can answer?
Not at this time. I think I'd still need to do my own due diligence and understanding. And of course, this is only my second full week. So I'll need time to do that, but I'm sure I'll have some additional questions. But thank you for asking, Councilman Daniels.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And so that's all we have out of this meeting. Once again, thank you all. And that's all I move that we adjourn.
I'm so moved for adjournment.
I second that. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. There are no nays. I will pass the mic on to Mrs. Key, and you have it at 6:30. I think you gotta
wait though. Don't you have to wait till 6:30, Ms. Key?
Yeah, at least till 6:30.
Yep.
Okay. Did you hear that, Thomas?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so we're gonna go into break until 6:30. Right?
I'm on break.
Does it still remain live, Thomas, while we're breaking?
Yeah, I'll just put it on pause.
Okay,
and I'll mute everybody. Okay, see you all.
So if we had a conversation, would it be recorded?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have anything to say to anybody. I'll see y'all at 6:30.
6:30.
Ms. Key,
Yes, ma'am.
no executive session.
No, ma'am. Thank
Okay.
you.
Just let me know whenever you're ready to start the meeting.
Hey, Thomas, I can't see myself. I've been having trouble seeing. This is Lisa, Council Clerk.
We see your pretty face.
I can't see anybody.
Uh-oh.
I think I may have to have Mr. Thornhill. This is the second meeting. It's been like that. I couldn't hardly see people.
Did you
Leave it
try
alone.
opening participants?
Yes, it had 9 listed, and I was trying to do the grid and all that kind of stuff. And okay.
No problem. Try using the different grids, and it might fix it.
See, side by side mode. I see Miss Childs Jeter. Oh, she the only one I see, Miss Childs Jeter. Oh, now I see folks. Okay.
Perfect.
I don't know what's going on.
Just take some time.
My lack of computer skills is showing.
What did you click on, Lisa, in case we run into that problem?
Really?
View. Up at the top right should be the word view.
Uh-huh.
Square, then you click on that, then they have different types. They have the standard, side-by-side speaker.
Oh, the view option, the view
Yes, ma'am.
options.
Yes, ma'am, that's what I did.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Thomas.
Oh, well, yes.
One more thing, sir. Where it says guest, can you type Miss Powdrill's name in there?
Oh, well, yes, of course.
Joyce Powdrill.
Okay, don't show me that one.
Thank you.
And then after you do that, we'll be ready to get started.
Okay, all set.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Today is Monday, December 7th, 2020. It is 6:30 p.m. We call the Economic Development Committee meeting to order. With a roll call, please, Ms. Randolph.
Thank you. Councilwoman Tanya Key,
Present.
Councilwoman Linda Childs Jeter,
Present.
Vice Mayor Jeannie Stinson,
Present.
Councilwoman Laverne Mitchell. Okay, no response. Councilwoman Phyllis Baber. No response. We have 3. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Randolph. Let the record reflect that we did get notification from Ms. Baber and Ms. Mitchell. Ms. Baber will not be in attendance. Ms. Mitchell is running late and may not be in attendance. So we appreciate them for communicating in advance. We will allow the prayer from the Law Committee meeting to sustain us for this meeting. We appreciate Mr. Daniels for extending that prayer in his meeting. We appreciate that. So the next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the previous meeting minutes, which was November 2nd, 2020. May I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to accept the minutes with any necessary corrections.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved in second. Any questions? Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? No opposing, no abstentions. The motion carries. Next item of business, we're going through old business. And what I like to do in this committee is I like to always have on our agenda any item that was on a previous agenda that is considered needing more conversation, discussion, or updates. So as you see on the old business, it's a lot of items that actually were pulled from the October meeting. Considering in our November meeting, we did not have an actual conversation of items. We had to go into executive session during that meeting. So I'm looking for updates and any discussions that we might need to have on the next items. And so we're looking for Ms. Powdrill, if she can give us some updates on the I-75 expansion. You're muted, Ms. Powdrill, I'm sorry.
I have no updates on the I-75 expansion.
Thank you. Anything on the pavement for the work on Shepherd Lane? I believe in the minutes it had some conversation about that there was going to be pavement that was done on Shepherd Lane. I'm not exactly sure if that's the part of Shepherd Lane that goes all the way down to Wayne. Any updates on that? Even if the mayor, if you have any updates that you wanted to share as well?
I don't have any. I'm sitting here thinking, but I do know that Ohio Department of Transportation, usually they'll send us an update, like if they're going to closure. So I do know along Mangum, that's supposed to be closed. We should be almost finished, which they opened it actually. So it was closed for like, what, 10 days and it's back open. I do hope they do some more along that way. I know they're leveling out some land across the street over in Laughlin on that side. But far as anything else, I'll look and see if they have anything scheduled, and I'll give you an update on that Monday.
Thank you.
Ms. Powdrill and Counsel. Okay.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Stinson?
You're welcome.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I wanted to ask, with all the green space that's going to be in that area, is there anything that we can do as a village? Because that space, it looks wonderful. It looks so much larger in front of Wendy's. But it's a lot of green space, and that's an area that I think that people will be able to recognize. Do we have any plans for that, to do something with it, like maybe put shrubs in the shape of Lincoln Heights, or even the area down by Aviation Way? That's going to be something that I think the green space, they might be able to see from the highway maybe, or our residents will be able to see it if there's any plans to do something with that green space, especially with our 75th Jubilee coming up. I think this is a good opportunity to put something in the village that's going to pop. And that's it. That's all I had.
Vice Mayor, I think that's a great observation and conversation that we do want to have globally within all of council. Ms. Powdrill, I see you, Mr. Daniels. I'll get you in just a sec. Ms. Powdrill, were you about to say something?
I was just thinking about just the whole idea about beautification of Lincoln Heights, and there is no gateway. That's what struck me, that there is no gateway to Lincoln Heights, and that was the spot that I thought would be an absolutely great spot if we did something grand in celebration of our 75th to just open the front door to Lincoln Heights. So yes, I think that'd be great, something great to work on in 2021.
Thank you. Mr. Daniels?
Just a question for off of that. I'm not sure if Madam Mayor or Ms. Pope has the answer, but do we not as a council need to also come up with whether or not we either want to keep that green space that is just came along Aviation Way, or if we want to make it commercial? Because does that not determine whether or not how that transfer of that land will go from Odot to the village of Lincoln Heights? Is that not something that we need to already start getting in motion now? And if not, maybe I'm mistaking conversations.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So actually, like in 2016, we had came together, and when they were planning and giving us information about what the village would like to see there. They did let us know that to maintain it, no charge. But when we decide that we would want to put something there, that we were going to have to pay for that area. We talked about getting some businesses. We threw some ideas out there, but we never became concrete. It was like we talked about a car wash. So it's some minutes out there that talks about it. I would look in 2016, 2017, but there was something else I was going to say as far as that property. I can't think of it now. It'll come to me. But we did have conversation. Oh, I know what it is. So as far as the gateways, we also talked about that. And we actually were working with, before Mr. Wani sold his business, his company, Speedy Signs and Apparel, which they're now gone. They had drew up some signage. And so we were basically waiting to see what the bridge was going to look like, to coordinate some signage. And so they do have some drawings out there. I don't know what Mr. Wani may still have out there since he sold his business, but that doesn't mean we still can't come up with something, a beautiful wall or something that says Lincoln Heights. Not just a regular sign. We should find something that we really would like to depict Lincoln Heights on coming off of Shepherd Lane. Also signage going down Anthony Lane where Lincoln Heights and Woodlawn meet. And actually a signage down there where Aviation Way is at when you come off. It is so beautiful, like Vice Mayor says, and we need to do something. I love the idea with the bushes though, but we have to have some conversations exactly what we want to do. We may not do anything for a couple of years, because we do know it takes time, but in the meantime, we can do some bushes or something. So that's a thought for you all to think of.
So committee, one thing, I'm gonna get you, Ms. Chowster, I just saw you waving. One thing that we can consider, because this is a project that we would want something done nice, specifically for the 75th anniversary, maybe we can consider creating an ad hoc committee where that committee specifically works on, the conversations about what we want that gateway to look like, what we want down the street to look like, and make it a working committee, that committee meets on a regular basis, driven by the village manager, using her expertise as far as planning is concerned. And then we can bring those conversations from 2016, those drawings from Wani, because Wani, he opened up another business doing the same thing, just not Speedy Signs. I know he's always been a supporter of the village. Even if we wanted to have him on that committee, we can develop the committee however we want it. And then continue. What I don't want us to talk about it, because now we're at the point where we can actually make some decisions and execute. So let's bring all that together and let's execute a plan on how we want that to look. And then I think when we get down into some of the other items in our agenda, on some of the other gateways, that's one of our main gateways because it's off the highway. But we do have a couple other entrances into the village that we can spruce up as well, all under the auspice of the 75th Jubilee. And I think that's a good idea. Committee, what's your thoughts? Ms. Jeter?
Well, you already said it. I was going to say that Wami's business, he still has a business. I think it's called Action Something. I have the contact information. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to say.
You provide that to Ms. Powdrill so that Ms. Powdrill will have it as well?
Yes.
Ms. Powdrill, Wani has been just a long-standing service provider for the village, and not only just providing the signage and services, he's provided a lot of hands and feet with a lot of the work that we've done that just down through the years. So he's a great guy to reach out. And if he's already done some work or had already begun some of the processes, it would be nice. I'm not saying we have to use him, but I'm just saying it would be nice to consider him with the project. Ms. Stinson, what is your thoughts?
I think that's a great idea. He was actually on my list that I keep up here. of people to try to reach out to for our 75th Jubilee because of all the things that he helps along the way. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And the ad hoc, who would you put on there? I think that's a great idea because we have plenty of people out here that horticulturists that I'm thinking the Blackwell gentleman, he does good lawn work, and we have people in the community that might. I don't want a big committee. I'm thinking like
right.
four.
No, it's more like a steering,
including Ms. Powdrill with that four.
More like a steering committee that would work directly with Ms. Powdrill, and of course, ultimately we'll get council's full approval. But it's a specific project that committee is working on. So when you talk about people that could be on the committee, that's not the people who are doing the actual work. The actual
Gotcha.
It's just the people that's kind of steering. And then, Ms. Powdrill will work on contracts and work on, how does it look? Do we have to pay? How much it might cost to get some of the things done that the committee comes up with? That's what I'm referring to.
So Miss, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Ms.
I'm done.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Also, Madam Chair, it seems like that they were telling us we were waiting on the signage part. So I'm curious to find out if the state has some additional money out there for the signage, because I know they, when we were trying to get Lincoln High sign on the bridge, it was out of pocket for us. So even if we can find a small grant, hey, to add to it, because we want something nice. Nothing but the best for Lincoln Heights. So, hey, I will be reaching out to Chris Case, and that'll be one of the things I'll mention. Where's additional funding?
Gotcha.
That we can spend right now, since we want this to go up like 2021 before August.
Gotcha. Mr. Daniels?
As a recommendation, as you create that ad hoc committee, if you would like members of the Heights movement on there, not necessarily myself, but members of the Heights movement, because they did the mural before. So we talk about just putting up those type of things and just different type of artists and different type of colors. I'm sure there were members of that the organization that would like to be involved in that as well.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so let's toss it out. I thought I saw there she is. Miss Mitchell has joined us. Miss Mitchell, how are you this evening?
I'm good. Hi, everybody.
Good.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. We were just talking about starting to work on maybe an ad hoc committee to look at the gateways and things like that. So I'm not looking for us to make any suggestions now, but maybe we can consider it at committee of the whole to look at what it might take, individuals from perhaps this committee, the mayor, somebody who's been there and had some conversations and can pull all the additional information together so that we don't have to do a lot of research to pull all that work together for what the ideas were and are for the what we want it to look like. Does that make sense?
So you're talking about all the gateways or a particular gateway in particular?
Well, we were talking specifically about the gateway off the highway, but we did identify that there are 2 other gateways into the village. So perhaps for this project, we look at the main gateway now, and I say the main, meaning the gateway off the highway. So you have 2 entrances. So you got that whole thing would perhaps be one project, and then look at the secondary gateways as we design as well. So just so that we have working committees diligently working towards executing those projects. I mean, we might say, hey, we want this area to be business, this area to be green space, open space. We want this area to have signage. We want this area to have benches, whatever it might be. Just go ahead and start developing that plan now, so that we can begin some of the execution. We may not get it in its totality completed by the end of next year, but we will have some leeway. We will have at least something pinned down that we know what we're going for. And even if we can show renditions or drawings of what it's going to be, as we do our celebratory year next year.
So are we looking then that most of that corner would be green space, or it will not be used for economic development? Have we just, we
didn't
probably need to
discuss.
discuss with them
Exactly.
what,
Exactly.
how they're going to give that to us, or, you know, our representative, state representative and senator, how we can get that without having to pay for it, so that we
Right.
know if we can develop it economically, as opposed to, I mean, it still has to be a gateway, but you know what I'm saying? It might
Yes.
not be as much signage as we would want if we knew there was a way that we could put something there.
Yeah, the mayor's going to look into that. She has some information that she's going to pull up, and then we'll get Ms. Powdrell up to speed as all the information that we are able to gather, and then ultimately she'll be leading that effort. And we're just a working committee that's specific on those tasks. Okay. Thank you. The other item that we had on the agenda was looking at the traffic signal. I saw some language that we were looking for a stoplight on Shepherd Lane and Wayne Avenue. And it appeared, and this is back in October, so it appeared to be, the conversation was either doing a study to see if it warranted getting this traffic light, or did we drop that and say we're just going to continue with the stop signs that are there now? Any other conversations on that?
Well, I'll respond to it. I think, you know, in light of the amount of money that it probably will take to get a stoplight at Wayne and Meadows, to put one at Shepherd Lane, if Laughlin is not interested, did we do a traffic study to see why the stoplight would be more advantageous than the stop signs, being that we probably may not have as much traffic as we thought we were going to have because of the way the highway is done. So
gotcha. I didn't see any clarity or clarification, or that we had come to an end on discussion, which is why I brought it back to this particular meeting to see if that's something that we are still pursuing. It appears as if the study the cost would have came out of our pocket, or we would have worked with Laughlin, but I didn't see any language in the information that I read that made me to understand that Laughlin was interested. And then I wanted to kind of go back to see what was our interest, because even if you look at some of the things that we're going to talk about, if you look at the property that's off of Shepherd that goes back to Bean property, you know, is that something that, you know, we're going to want to develop? And it could become manufacturing, it could become anything. And then at that point, that would generate more traffic in that area. So I'm putting it out there. I'll keep it on the agenda until we've either made a decision, or, you know, or we're saying, no, we'll just look at it again when we start to look at development in that area. So it's up to the committee how you want to proceed with that. But I don't like an item to drop off the agenda if it hasn't come to its totality.
Yeah. So Madam Chair, I had reached out to Mayor Mason in Laughlin, but I hadn't heard anything. That's been about a month ago. So I'll reach out to him again. I haven't talked to him. I usually talk to him throughout the year, but I haven't been able to get a hold of him since, you know, I've been trying to reach him, because we were talking about doing a combination of a street grant along Shepherd Lane. So I will reach back out to him, because I never got a response back, and it's been about 30 days since then. I think that it may have been mentioned in the minutes. I was going to reach out to him, but I never heard anything. But I'll got to be on my list. I got some homework assignments for Monday to give you some updates.
So Mayor, would you like to, because I know you were pulling, you know, extra duty during the time where Ms. Powdrell wasn't, or we didn't have a full-time village manager. Would you like to roll that over to Ms. Powdrell to start researching, or?
Yeah, I'm going to give it to her. She has a list. Me and her met, I think it was Friday.
Okay.
So me and her were meeting on a weekly basis for a while. And so, yeah, That's one of the things on the list, Ms. Powdrill. I know she's been busy planning Saturday's event, so I didn't want to overwhelm them, but
Understand.
that's about 2. So, but yeah, she's gonna have a book.
And it's not that we need it back by Monday. We just have it back by next committee. It's not an urgent.
Yeah, I
item.
just wanted to give you an update. So what I'll do is I'll at least give you guys an update of a conversation like with Chris Kaysen and Mr. Mayor Mason, just if I talk to him and, then we can talk about it later on.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Anybody else
welcome.
in the committee have any questions or comments on that? All right. Thank you. And so the next item that, once again, I pulled from agenda was the village's 20-year development plan. And it had 3 pieces to it: combined land use, transportation, economic development master plan, a potential cost of $150,000, $200,000, and land use element. I know that's a mouthful. I know it's a mouthful, but I wasn't at the meeting, so I don't even know how it came up. I don't specifically know who, other than I saw that the former village manager had the conversation about it. I just want to kind of get an update as to, number one, did it come out of committee? Did we make that recommendation to council? Is that something from council that came to committee? Or I believe that's something that we need to do. If we don't have one, we need to have one. I agree. But I'm just trying to understand the conversation and what direction the committee is going, or what direction we were going on it. Ms. Mitchell, you're muted, Ms. Mitchell. You're still muted. I see you, Ms. Jeter. I'm gonna get you.
I'm trying to get to Ms. Mitchell.
Oh, okay. You're still muted.
Oh, she got too much to say. They won't unmute it.
You're still on mute.
She said, okay, there we go.
There we go.
Okay.
All
So
right.
the 20-year plan seems incomprehensible to me. A 20-year plan, I don't think folks do 20-year plans anymore.
I didn't think that.
So I don't know where that comes in at. It may have been the manager. I don't recall us really voting on anything like that in economic development. And when you talk about a 20-year plan, $150,000, $200,000, that is not going to kill it. That's a 6-month plan. So I'm just saying, if we're going to do this and look at this, then of course that's going to be Ms. Powdrill's responsibility. But a 20-year plan is just not feasible.
Yes, Ms. Childs Jeters.
Madam Chair, I thought that was 5 years. Where did the 20 years come in?
I just pulled it directly from the minutes.
I thought it was 5.
Now,
Maybe.
I did see something else that was a shorter term, but I couldn't quite understand it.
He was working on that on the 5-year plan.
Okay.
It just didn't happen. All the pieces didn't come together.
Okay.
And I think it came from the chair of the Economic Development Committee at that time, who passed it on to him, and he was supposed to put some things together and involve council.
Okay.
The end.
So basically the conversation was had, but it was no direction necessarily given from council on how we wanted to. Okay.
The conversation was had, but the understanding wasn't received.
Okay.
We didn't understand what all was involved in it. There is there's a notebook somewhere, and should be one right there at the Village Hall that can give you some insight as to what they were talking about. That plan has been going round and round and round. This is my 7th year on council. And
it'd be a secret.
It comes back up and it doesn't move. It doesn't move. Yeah.
I agree with Ms. Mitchell that a 20-year development plan, ideally it is like, what was happening some years ago, but having more of a smaller 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, but after the 5-year, after we're in the 3-year mark of the 5-year, make sure nothing has really changed. So we're not putting a lot of effort into such a large plan when things change so often. So I do think that we need some sort of plan. We need to agree on some sort of plan to recommend to the village manager as far as what direction we want to see it go. I do agree on having the land use plan. I don't understand the transportation plan unless it has something to do with streets, because I do feel like we need to have a street repair plan and a street maintenance plan to continue, with the, keep the streets nice and neat, because as you see, the streets that have been recently done, the whole street looks a lot better. People tend to take care of their houses more. They take care of the property more. And so if we can continue in that vein, definitely want to see that. And, looking at a full plan as far as our properties are concerned, and what are the plan for the properties? And do we want to bring additional businesses? Are we looking at developers to build? We have to have something, because I believe we have to have shovel-ready projects ready. And we have to have those plans lined up. So when that funding stream does come, we're ready to toss out a plan saying this is what we want to do, and we're ready to move on it. And we may have that. We may have some things already in place. I'm just not aware of it. And we probably want to put it all together under one umbrella so that we know at any particular time that we're ready to go. Council has agreed, and this is what we're doing.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Pope.
This is I do know that the previous village manager, one of his projects was trying to get a master plan together for Lincoln Heights, a comprehensive plan, and he did get an estimate that it would cost in the amount of $150,000 to $200,000, and then we were awarded that mini grant plan, the planning grant, and it was for $40,000, and it was for a land use to be able to update all our codes as far as what type of buildings can be where, how they coded and everything. So we were awarded a $40,000 mini planning grant. It was put on hold because there was no further direction from Mr. Duke. So they wanted to make sure that we completed some of the other projects before they released the funding for the mini planning grant.
Do you know what other projects they're referring to?
It was all the CDB G projects, the wide, the street light on Madash and Wayne Avenue, and it was the code enforcement grant, and it was the we received funding for a park and all of that. So
all right,
they wanted to make sure that we were.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, finish.
So they wanted to make sure that we completed the majority of those projects before they released the additional funding for the land use grant.
Okay, so I see you, Ms. Mitchell. So the funding is still there? Do you know?
Yes,
okay.
It's still there. Yes, it's still there.
Okay, so are we working? It sounds like some of the things that Ms. Mitchell just brought up, the street sign on Wayne and Madash, and then we talked about the funds that we had to return because of the old high school, right? We talked about that a couple meetings ago. So maybe we could just get an update on, we've had to return some things, and this is something else that we're ready to work on. Can we work on it? I don't like having to return funds if we don't have to. That's one big thing. None of us and do. we definitely want to start a project and complete it so that we can be ready for the funds for the next project. Which kind of lends back to what we said earlier, making sure that we got plans in place that we're ready to move on. I know we've had a lot of discussion on making sure that we're in compliance with grants, making sure that we know what the grants can be used for, and making sure that we're using that money. Ms. Mitchell?
Right.
Well, I guess some of those funds, to me, don't necessarily go hand in hand with what was considered to have been the master plan, I guess. Maybe what we were trying to do with the building, the old high school, but the code enforcement, some of those were separate things that probably need to be looked at. Like with the light at Meadows, I mean, the light's going to cost more than $25,000 to put that light up there. I mean, is that the cost of the light? Is that the labor and all of that? So I would think Ms. Powdrill will, I don't know, get with Joy and just see which pieces need to be put together and which piece needs to be separated that we can go on and move on, especially the code enforcement. I mean, that we've been getting that $30,000 for
quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, ever since I guess back in 2005 or 8. But but we need to pull those pieces together before we cannot get them, even though they have put them on hold. When you put them on hold for more than a year and a half, that becomes so. But that's something Ms. Powdrill can handle that with Joy, I guess.
Ms. Powdrill, I'm gonna get you right in just a second. My only thing is, when I see master plan, that means all the other plans that we have come under that master plan. So whether it's a small plan, whether it's a one-off project, that they're all part of the overarching plan. Now, I don't know how much that necessarily costs. I didn't do the study on it. But when I see a comprehensive plan or a master plan, I think words are, we're just semantics, basically. But I think everything that we're doing as it pertains to updates in the village, upgrades in the village, moving the village forward, should all fall under a master plan of some sort. Ms. Powdrill, yes.
To the point of speaking with Joy, I had an excellent conversation with Joy and Emily last week, and those topics were brought up. They gave me a list of all of the projects that are in a pipeline and the status of that. So we kind of walked through all of that. I asked them to give me some time to read the document that they provided for me and to digest it all and then follow up with them regarding how do we move forward with that. They were absolutely amenable to that, and that Emily is the point person for that. And I think that the second comment I would like to address is the communication with GE in helping Lincoln Heights move forward was very fruitful last week. And I am so happy that you all are talking about master plan, because I wasn't sure that what the village, you as council members, your desires were incorporated into this. I guess what it was framed to me is really not real. Right. But if I'm going to invest my time and energy in doing something, I would recommend that it be real. And in order to get to something real, I think it's important to have that master plan. Now, 20 years, I may not be here, but until then, I can help you get to where you want to be. And for the next person, it is clear about what path they should take. So I encourage you, and I am happy to search for those dollars to how we get to start to get to a master plan. It makes my job a whole lot easier if I have written down and you've articulated exactly what you want, that I can move that forward. But it seems to me at this point, I'm ambiguous on what your goals and objectives are, what projects are priority over other projects, and what do you want from a long-term perspective. So I am in full agreement there needs to be a master plan. Joy did mention that there were some additional dollars available for the land use. And so if we can all kind of put that all together so we can get our marching orders forward, I think that would be awesome. So that's.
Thank you, Ms. Paldrew. I think it's worth, now that I'm hearing more, sounds like Ms. Pope has quite a bit of information. Ms. Paldrew, you've done some legwork to get some information. And I know Counsel has a lot of information, that at our next meeting, that we can start looking at what all those pieces look like now. Then that way Counsel has the opportunity to start looking at what is under the umbrella, in other words, what we've been working on, all the pieces here, the pieces there, put them all together, and then Counsel, because I think I'm hearing, individuals talking about things, and I've read them someplace or another in one document here, one document here, one document there. If we could start pulling that together, Ms. Paldrew, then at our next meeting, we can start having discussion from this committee, what recommendations we want to submit to Counsel, how to prioritize, how to put them together, understanding that the master plan is very fluid and it does change. There is a lot of different reasons why it would change. Something might be of high priority now, but a funding opportunity comes and it fits something else, that's down the list. And we don't want to wait, for that funding and wait on that project just because it's not, at the #1 item, but we want to go ahead and get those things checked off the list. So if committee agrees, we'll look at that next month. We'll bring all these things together. Everybody can bring their researches and what have you together, and we can start developing, these are things we want to look at. Because I was researching the ULI when you bring up GE, and I kept hearing people saying that we've talked about the Lindy corridor, we talked about the Lindy Avenue corridor, and I mean, now I'm seeing it, that there was some discussion. So there was some community discussion as well. So there was lots of discussions about it. So let's just pull it all together. And my recommendation would be to pull it all together and come back and then give clear direction of how we move forward with the planning process. Anybody from committee?
Well, when you say pull it all together, so you want Ms. Paldrew to present pieces, or what is it that you want the committee to do?
So the committee, if you have information about projects that we've been working on, something within the last 4 to 5 years or so, she wasn't here, so she'd have to do additional research. So if we already have it, if we already know it, can we just send it over to her, say, hey, we had this, we were talking about this, just to make sure that everything is captured. Then we can bring it back to committee and kind of sift through it and see what direction we want to go. And I think there's a lot of overlap in a lot of the things that we've done. That's what I think. And I just want to mitigate. I want to mitigate a lot of that so that the village manager can have a succinct line of this is what we're doing and how we're doing it. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Paldrew.
Madam Chair, I have spoken with everyone with the exception of Vice Mayor Stinson. So I don't want to just waste everybody's time, but if they could email me, if they have something in mind that they didn't get to tell me, that would work. My intent was taking all of the conversations that we've had with each of you and kind of prioritize what everybody said, and then allow you as a council to choose what is a priority for me to work on. And then that translate to, hey, if we're going to do a master plan, this is what the council sees, these items are what the council sees as priority. Tell us what we need to be doing to achieve that success, what success looks like for us as a community, whether that's milestones of 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years. We have something now to reach for, and milestones and outcomes that we're looking to have. But I think I have now what I need that says, everybody really cares about this thing right here. is that what I'm hearing you say, is that a priority for you as a council and you believe for this community? And then to start to build out a plan around that. Is that okay for everybody, or somebody has another idea of how that should go?
That's fair for me. Ms. Stinson, Ms. Childs Jeters?
I'm okay.
That sounds fair.
That sounds fair.
I didn't realize I was the last council member for you to meet with, though. Called me out.
You're such a busy lady.
They said they told me to save the best for last, so I said,
You're right.
Madam Mayor.
So with that being said, Ms. Powdrill and Ms. Key, I think once you get the information, it'll give us some timelines, because I know you were talking about, no, it shouldn't take, some of these things you're not going to be here 20 years. I don't think any of us are, but there are some things that we have out there that we already have that. Like one of this, Ms. Mitchell had wanted to do, had discussed about finishing up Martin Luther King Estates. That's a gimme. That's property that we already, that's something that's 2-3 years done. You know what I'm saying? We have developers that's coming all the way through Lincoln Heights building right now. That's something that we can see that's going to happen within 2 years, really. So something like that. But I do know that was one of the projects with economic development that we wanted, that we discussed. And there's fresh minutes out there because it's been a discussion this year about how we can go about finishing up Martin Luther King Estates. I'm trying to sit here and think if there's some other things, I'm sure, but that was one. One had to do with businesses, how the charter review, making Chamber of Commerce for the Village of Lincoln Heights, things like that. So if y'all got some ideas and if you can remember some of the conversations that we had, that's some things that doesn't take long. The chamber, that's going to take a relationship with the businesses that we already have to see if that's something that they would like to see happen. But Martin Luther King Estates, that's something that's fresh minutes that we can bring that to the table. I know Ms. Mitchell will be bringing that up because that's something that she wanted to see happen. And so we do, and then how are we going to go about, we had I guess for the last year, we kept, I know Ms. Powdrill, you're going to start getting calls if you have not already, asking people wanting to purchase property. So that's a discussion that we've been having for over a year. What about the parcels? How many parcels? What we're going to do? So we do need to get busy with what we would like, what the residents and ourselves would like to see the Village of Lincoln Heights look like. So that's just one.
Thank you, Mayor.
To put that out there.
Ms. Pope, were you trying to? Okay, Ms. Powdrill.
And that you bring up what real estate you own. I don't have a full grasp of what the village owns. So I like to take a stab at trying to figure out, working with a real estate attorney to try to figure out what do we own and do we have clear title and all of that kind of stuff. So when somebody does come and want to purchase, that we can say yes or no. And we have clean title and know if that's what we want to do.
So Ms. Powdrill, I got in my mailbox today, and maybe this is something that's helpful for you as well, because I wanted to know that also. But in the economic development meeting, it looks like on October 5th, there's a spreadsheet of village-owned properties. You may have gotten it. It's just a spreadsheet. It has looks like 111 properties or parcels, I should say, but no additional detail. So maybe that's a starting point. But I also would like to see not only those items that you talked about, but making sure that we know the property line. We know exactly what part of that property is ours, so that we already have it on record and continue to have it on record. Miss, I don't know who hand was up first, Miss Childs Jeters or Miss Mitchell? Miss Child, I'm gonna go with Miss Childs Jeters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to see the land marked so I know where the property is. You know, if you ride through the village and we own a lot of this property, how do I know it belongs to the property, to us? Without me pulling out a sheet of paper and looking to see there's no address, you know, if this is ours. So if we have it marked, it would be easier for us to know where exactly it is. My
Thank you.
opinion.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes, well, I just want to, as long as Ms. Powder gets that list, because we have several lists floating, you know, that have the properties, but I think that we do have an updated one. And, you know, just to, I know that Deepak has some properties that are titled, because we had to transfer some when we had our Community Improvement Corporation. So he would be able to also assist you with those properties that we do have clear title to, because I believe we paid quite a bit of money a couple years ago to, as we were beginning to do the LRP, the land reutilization programs. So a lot of that work was done then. So Deepak should have some of that.
Right. And so once again, another plan that's put under the master plan. Ultimately, it should all be in one place. I agree, Ms. Mitchell. I've seen lots of different documents kind of moving back and forth for several years of what we own and who owns it and whose name it's in and what have you. And I know at one point in time, we did mark the lots that we own some kind of way. So Ms. Powder, if there's something that maybe you could work with your team on, not saying that we have to do it like tomorrow, but as part of the whole plan, identifying so people know whose property it is, we know whose property it is visually. At one point in time, you know, the village wasn't doing upkeep on our own property. A lot of that has changed, so we're doing a better job. But once again, it just puts us in a place where we're going to take care of our own property, because we're going to make sure that we want to make sure that everybody else is taking care of theirs as well. So just to, I mean, however you come up with an idea, however your team think is best to do it, you know, however you want to do it, I think is fine, just as long as that visual piece is there. That actually led into our next item. So the mayor had already did some conversations on the vacant use, and we were talking, Ms. Mitchell talked about the reuse strategy. So we'll move on from that, just knowing that that's a conversation that we're going to want to continue to see moving forward with the full planning. I think I heard Ms. Pope mention the last item, which was the zoning classification. The planning department was helping us with that land use. And it sounded like there was a grant that's available, but we can't get it yet. I'm thinking we're talking about the same thing. I just want to make sure, Ms. Pope, we're talking about the same thing. Under land use element. Once again, I just pulled it from the October meeting, so I'm not 100% sure.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Sure.
So when we talk about the zoning and zoning ordinance classification, I'm confused behind that. So we have a zoning code. We know that some, not all, of our zoning codes need to be updated. However, if our permits are being handled by Hamilton County Regional Planning, are they following ours or are they following theirs? So, you know, are we looking for them to help us do our zoning reclassification? How are they basically, and how are they looking at our zoning? Because, you know, some people have permits and fences that are not put up according to, you know, what our zoning says. So I'm just confused where we are with that, because we don't get reports. We've only had one report. I think I've asked for a report at least to come quarterly to know what the permits have been done and what other, zoning issues have come up by people going to Hamilton County Regional, that is, if they do go. So
Ms. Pope, do we have any information on that? Or Ms. Powder, I would suspect that you may not have it, but if you do, okay. If we don't have information on it, we're gonna want it moving forward, because even coming from law committee meeting, some of the things that they were discussing kind of lines up. Ms. Stinson, am I right? Yeah. So they're going to be looking at codes as well in their committee. And so we definitely want to be looking at zoning codes. I need to be brought up to speed where we're going. I know we're using Hamilton County, but I didn't know if we have voted to lean to their codes, or we could stand with our codes, knowing and understanding that some of our codes were needed to be revisited. But I'm not exactly sure, Ms. Mitchell, which codes those are. And so that's something that we need to, okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're talking about like Martin Luther King, there are some issues with setbacks and stuff like we had with Habitat for Humanity. You know what I'm saying? So making sure that, we just need to be on one accord with them and just know what ours are, and making sure that if we do have to do some rezoning, that they know where to come, that they are in concert with Ms. Powdra.
Right.
Exactly. So can I either restate or kind of hear again what you exactly want me to do with the county and planning department? So what I hear you say is there seems to be some discrepancy in terms of what the county's zoning codes are and the village's zoning code.
Right. Are they, where are we in concert with each other? I know that we at one time went with the Hamilton County Building Code, so we sort of use both. And I just think if we're looking at zoning and zoning ordinance classification, what are they using? Are they using ours, or do they have to turn to theirs if ours doesn't fit the bill for what somebody may want to do?
Right. I do know that there was some conversation because Hamilton County zoning code was more up to speed with today's technology, with today's use for building items, so forth and so on. So I do know at one time we were looking to adopt theirs.
Yeah, I think we did do it, but
okay. But if we did it, then if we adopted what theirs is, then do we really need to research and find out if we're working in harmony, hoping that, and maybe that's the assumption, that they're using the county's codes?
I think it needs to be verified though, just to make sure, because I do know that Ms. Mitchell has mentioned that a few times.
Okay.
So it could be somewhere down there too. And
yeah.
Right.
So now what I hear, Madam Chair, is there seems to be an agreement that we adopted the county's codes, building codes. What we need to do now is to make sure that the village's codes are in alignment with the county's codes. Is that what I'm hearing you say now? Okay.
And if someone is applying for a code or applying for an inspection, or I may say the term wrong, but to
variance.
a variance or whatever they're applying for, that number one, we're operating under the county's codes, because we should be if we adopted them. And number two, are those actually happening? And where's the report saying that this is how many applications they received, this is how many they granted, they've denied them. Usually we only get the information about a denial, if a resident comes to us and say, I applied for this and I got denied. So usually it's the fire, is where we get the information. But if we just know from either the managers, pulling from the manager's report, I think, Ms. Mitchell, would that be sufficient, or you want the report to come to this committee?
The manager's report is fine.
Yeah. So just add it to the manager's report and just saying, this is the applications that's been received. This is the ones that we have allowed or we refused or whatever, and that we're following those county codes. And we may have to even update for our residents and make sure that they know that, those are the codes that we're using, that we're operating off of, so they don't feel like we're just using anything. We do have a standard that we're operating from, and this is how, especially since we got buildings coming, and we're going to have people who are trying to do a lot of different things in a village because we're going to be moving forward. Just want to make sure everybody understands what those rules are. Did I see another hand up? Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Jeter. Go ahead. I'll go after.
Madam Chair, we adopted to use that agency for out here. We just pushed whatever we was doing to them as far as getting permits. I don't remember voting on their what they use, but we did vote on to send it to them. Now that was done under Rebecca Hopkins. So if you go back and look at what the contract says, then we would know what's going on with that. But I agree, we do need a report on what's going on. We need to know when people are building or they're putting up fences, because there are a lot of fences going up and we don't know if they have a permit or not. They're supposed to put the permit up where you can see it, but it's kind of hard to see behind the big tall fence.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Pope.
Okay.
Mayor, I'll come. Mayor, I'm sorry, Ms. Pope. Mayor was first. She was after Ms. Jeters. I'll call you next, Ms. Pope.
Actually, Ms. Jeter, that's what I was going to talk about, the legislation. So that legislation may even have an attachment part to it, breaking down what all that Hamilton County was going to do. It's been a while, but I do know there was some legislation like she said. So it sounds like it had to be about 2017, I think, when that took place. So that'd give Council Clerk, Ms. Randolph, and I can check some old emails as well to tell you exactly when that took place, but it sounds like attachment of their duties was included, but I don't remember voting on
using their codes.
Using their codes, but it's been a while. But I do know, I could have swore it was attachment breaking down exactly what they were going to do, because we went back and forth about it for a minute.
And it may have even been longer. It may have been longer than what you're referring to, that we voted on their codes, because I remember one of my first times back on council, we were having this conversation as well. So let's just finalize it. Just find out where we are, what we're using. If we're not using their codes and we need to vote on using their codes, then we'll do that. If we, because we knew that our codes needed a lot of work to be brought up to current. And unfortunately, it just kind of, it was hard just going through code at a time to try to bring us up to speed. And Hamilton County had done a continuous job updating their codes. I just remember having that conversation before. So let's just finalize which codes we're using, get some reports from it. I'm gonna go to Ms. Donna next, Ms. Jeters. And then that way we'll know moving forward, we'll all have that information and continues to have that information. Ms. Pope, I'm sorry.
Okay, number one, Hamilton County Planning and Development does our building permits. They only do our building permits.
That's all.
And, they use their codes for the building permits. Okay, there is a guy, and I'll have to look at my email to see what his name is. He works in that department, and he can give us the reports, the building permit reports, as often as we call down there. I did not call down there on a regular basis, and that's why Ms. Mitchell didn't receive the reports. Number two, Dan Mercer is our planning and zoning representative. He does our planning and zoning, so he would be over issuing our planning and zoning permits. And he issued those when Habitat for Humanity built the houses. It went through him, and he, gave us the check and everything like that. Number three, That's where the mini planning grant that Mr. Dukes had in mind came into play, because he was trying to put all of those pieces together, because he was saying that our setbacks are ancient. And so when the lady that was complaining about, they put that last house right next to hers, our setbacks are so old, but Mr. Mercer had to go by what we had. So that's when Mr. Dukes wanted to get that mini planning land use grant together so he could update, so we could update setbacks and, all of that kind of stuff when it comes to building and planning and all of that.
Thank you. That was great clarification. So I would think that we're going to want to look at the zoning codes for sure, especially if we're using our zoning codes, because we knew years ago that those were pretty old. And
right.
We only updated a couple at a time as they appeared before us. And I remember as far as back as when the villas was getting built, that we had to look at some zoning codes then. So if we are not using a more modern day, I would say, code, then we might want to look at what Hamilton County might be using for zoning and building permits, because it sounds like they might be using their own code and building permits. I don't know. That we just need to figure that out. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Mitchell.
But I guess I think we need to also consider that, most of our lots are 40 feet.
40
and if you're
feet.
Martin Luther King, you might have 52 to 60. So I wouldn't say personally that our setbacks are old and outdated, because some of that has to go by what the lot size is. And every community might be different in terms of their setback for their particular zoning. You know what I'm saying? You look at Glendale. Now their setback is going to be a little bit different than it is in Springdale. If you look at how close their homes are to the street, and that's what we're talking about, and how wide it is on each side, what the side setbacks are. So we might have some other types of codes that may be outdated, but the setback usually is going to go based on, what size lots, and and so you don't want it to be too close to the street, and you don't want it to be too far back, because then, that affects the size of the house. So I'm just saying, I don't want us to think that all of our codes are not good, but, it just bears exploring.
I think it does, especially if we're going to look at our land that we have that's available for development. And right. what I would not want to see, and I'm just speaking for myself, what I would not want to see is, houses that are built right on top of each other. If there's a way in which we can perhaps even look at the property where the village owns, and we could start there and see how zoning would impact those areas, that would be a small enough project to begin with, so that we know what we can foresee coming down the line.
Right. Especially when we got our 40-foot lots. If you're trying to do housing, we talked about having to consolidate.
Yeah, we talked
those
about
lots in order to make a bigger house, to be more acceptable for people to want to build, especially down in the lower sub. So
right. And we talked about splitting some of those lots and taking half on one lot and half on the other lot. So okay, it's worth
But if you look at the houses in Woodlawn, now them houses are them new ones pretty close together.
Yeah, and the ones in
again, those setbacks depend on the community and the size lots that you have.
Okay. So we gotta figure out some direction that we want to give. So Ms. Pope just gave us some good information on how that conversations became to be. And maybe it's a joint conversation with the building permits individual and Mr. Mercer, village manager, and just looking at what we already have and what could potentially be some of our issues from those pieces of parcels if we decide to develop them. And maybe that's small enough to start with, and then we grow from there. And if we have to amend some language in either our zoning codes, because it sounds like if it's Mr. Mercer, I guess that's my other question. What codes is Mr. Mercer using? If he's using ours and they created a situation like the one that was created with Habitat, where we had the resident come and was complaining about, the items that she was complaining about, can we foresee any of that, or can we foreshadow any of that and derail some of that? Maybe, okay, that's next year. We'll take that to next year, Ms. Paldro. That's more conversation than we can have right away. So that we'll put that on our next year agenda. All right, thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Discussion. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Counsel, I have to leave the meeting. I have another important Zoom call at 7:30. So I will try to come back in, I guess, for the executive session if I can.
Thank you. You weren't here for the announcement. We won't be having executive session today.
Oh, okay.
All
right. Well, thank you.
So you're welcome, Ms. Mitchell. Have a great evening.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Just one more thing on the codes. I know it was discussed with the previous code enforcer that she wanted us to approve using the International Codes Manual, but I don't think that was ever approved. So that might be the one that you're thinking about also. And that manual was one that the area communities are using. So,
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
That was not approved because we kept going back and forth, and our attorney felt that was not a good use of our money for that one.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you. All right, and we may just pull on some of it, if we need to update our own with some of the language that's in them, and we can always share language if we need to. But okay, we'll pull that to next year and continue to have discussion on it, because once again, as we develop, we're going to run into those situations, and we're going to be having all kind of hot topic meetings and upset. But if we know up front, and we're selling land or using land for whatever reasons, that can be part of the conversation. Here's the land. This is what you have to deal with. This is what so it comes a package deal. So we're not just selling land and then the person who buying it or developing it feel like they can do, whatever they're thinking they can do. And then they come to find out that they can't. So we want to try to avoid as much as that as possible. Fair enough, committee?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we were not looking at in the past to selling land. There was more banking the land for development.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So we end up with over 100 pieces of property.
But some
Yeah.
property we probably can, just depends on the circumstance and the situation. Just like we talked about earlier, looking at Martin Luther King Estates.
Mhm.
We have lots up there and we can get them developed into homes.
Yeah, we need development.
Right. Right. All right. Thank you. Thank you guys on that conversation. That brings me up to speed with what direction we're going with that and what additional conversations we'll be having. So on new business, and I talked about it a little bit, was the ULI. So I took some time to read through that. Thank you. The village manager gave me a paper copy of it. I had seen the report. I had seen some presentation on it, but I wasn't quite sure about everything. And I know it came up in our conversation with myself and Ms. Paldro about a full report, and the council approved moving forward with the recommendations that's identified in this ULI plan, I guess you would call it, or project. So any additional conversations on that? Can somebody give any updates on that? Is there a complete report from the work that was being done, and has council approved moving forward on some of the strategies and recommendations that came out of that planning?
Madam Chair, they had not.
Okay.
I know when they did the forum with some of the residents came out, they presented that, but it never went anywhere else. It was up to us to decide what we were going to do with the information that they gave but it's worth bringing it out, dusting it off, and seeing what you can pull out of that. We have that, and I think, what was it, an 8-year plan that's out there? It's some old information that the former Councilwoman Goodwin Williams had pulled out, but there is some other information. It sounds like we're gonna, working with Ms. Powell, just look at what all we have and just pull, because people took the time to come to the village. I mean, it was a big, large roundtable discussion with a lot of experts in their fields. So the least we could do is pull some information out, get with Ms. Powell and some other partners and get our ad hoc committees together and just make it happen, make it work, and do some engagement pieces with the residents. That's something that we need to do more of. We did not do enough. It was a few residents that came to the ULI and spoke, but a lot of it had to do with the history. We drove around different areas in the village of Lincoln Heights. They had a shuttle bus and everything, and we drove through. And it basically was a history lesson, just letting them know how passionate the residents are and what we would like to see. But a lot of us want what we want, but we need to be realistic for what the market asks for. And so I think some of the information is good, some that we can see happen, but there's so much information that we got with what's going on around us that we should be able to incorporate something and get something working within the next couple of years to come.
Okay, because I know, Mayor, you were talking about earlier, I could think of when you were discussing some items that we're probably ready to move on. I was thinking, what are some of our low-hanging fruit? It might be some items based on what I kind of saw out of here. There may be some items that's considered low-hanging fruit that we can begin to look at. But I think this is worth, and if the committee can correct me if they think different, but I think this is worth putting this ULI piece under that whole umbrella thing that we're talking about and look at working on it next year and prioritizing it, as Ms. Powell said earlier, and what pieces out of there do we want to do? Do we want to do it all? And how do we want to implement it going forward? I think that's a good strategy, at least so that our partners that did come to the table to do this work see that it was not in vain. Not that any of the work that any partner came to the table to do with us was in vain. We're just now, it's prime time. We're at that time where we're ready to move forward and execute a lot of the things that we've been working towards. Is that fair enough to say? Ms. Jeters?
To the mayor and Ms. Powell, you might want to reach out to the organization, and they will have a report on what they did that day. They're using funding, so therefore they have to have a report as to what they did and what they was looking for and the results of their activity for that day or that event. But I thought we got some kind of summary. Been so long.
I think I'm looking at a summary is what I have.
Yeah.
But there has to be a full report that they would have pulled together to create this summary. And that's what we were looking for, so that we can have it in-house. That was the biggest thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Is to have all of this information in-house.
It's key. A lot of stuff was secret.
Yeah.
It was.
But we should still be able to get a report. We should be able to get a report, though. I hear you, Ms. Stinson. At some point, somebody has the data because they can't pull this summary together out the clear air. Yes, ma'am.
They have to report it. So
yeah.
Ms. Powell. Madam Chair, I don't have a problem in locating that report and making sure that each council member gets a copy of that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And it'll just become part of our collective conversation with the other plans. Is that fair enough, committee? Awesome. Thank you. And if anybody has any additional information, they can email Ms. Powell. Please do so.
Poor Ms. Powell. That list just keeps getting longer and longer.
Well, I'm just saying, email what you have, because that's helpful. That way she doesn't have to try to find, like, who do I need to call? And although she'll be calling, I'm sure, to build relationships with individuals, but it just kind of helps with some of that legwork.
But
it becomes totally comprehensive, and I think it's best to kind of take. I bet everything that you all have desired over the years was already here. It's just done and forgotten about. But if we can all bring it back to the table and say, what do we think that this could be? It's already there, and we just have to bring it back to everybody's memory.
Yes,
Madam Chair, we cannot overlook Ms. Donna Pope, who was there during this process, and she probably can locate things faster than any of us. She was involved in it. So, turn some of that over to her to get in Ms. Padrill.
Yes. As well as the former committee chair, she definitely had boots to the ground. So we want to make sure that we give kudos to whoever we need to give kudos to, but let's keep moving forward. Let's keep moving forward. Okay, and the last item I had under new business was the Odot funding calendar. This was an email that our solicitor had sent out. I guess it was just as a FYI. So I just want to make sure that all committee had it. And I don't think I saw, Ms. Padrill, your name on the email. So it was like a green sheet, and it looks like the funding that was coming out from ODOT. It gave a list of when things were coming, when things were due. So I would just assume it's informational, but once again, taking a quick look at it, and based on some of the things that we've already discussed, maybe there's a funding opportunity somewhere along the line for those things from ODOT. But that would be totally up to you to navigate and negotiate and figure out, and then see what makes sense if we're using any of the funds. I saw Safe Routes to School. I know Ms. Pope and others have worked a lot on some Safe Routes to School funding. And I know Ms. Pope had worked on previously a lot of funding opportunities. But like we mentioned earlier in the meeting, we want to make sure that we're getting funding and using it so that we don't have to find ourselves in a situation where we're returning it. So just wanted to share that. And that's all I had. If any other council or any other committee committee member had any items they wanted to bring. Yes, Ms. Padrill.
I just wanted to bring up that we discussed it on the Recreation Committee of doing a virtual holiday party. And what that would entail is that we would have a DJ who would come on like Zoom, and we would invite the residents to join us. He will play music, whatever music you want him to play. This is the thought, for 30 minutes. And then we will have council come on, and they will give their wish for 2021 or say whatever you would like to say. And then we would maybe have an ugly t-shirt contest, announce that winner, and then go back into playing music and close out. The DJ will close out the evening. So we're talking maybe an hour and a half event to just celebrate the holidays.
What day did we want? What day was that again?
We didn't set a date yet. So I think
set a date.
Did we set a date?
I couldn't remember if we set a date or not. I know we discussed it, but I couldn't remember if we set a date or not. But maybe we can, we have one more?
December 19th? Did we say to talk? I know I sent out.
You said September 9th. I mean, you said the 19th.
December 19th.
Yes.
That sounds like fun in this time since we can't gather together. That's something that we can do that's festive. And Ms. Padrill, you'll work with ICRC to get it streamed live and all that kind of stuff, or how would that look?
And the staff, there was some talk, maybe staff gathering at the village to light the tree, and maybe having the TVs on then and doing a celebration there, just with the 8 employees who would like to show up, or council who would like to show up, but that would be if council is okay with that.
Will the state governor be okay with you gathering like that?
We would definitely be masked and social distance if.
They're asking us to stay in.
Are they doing a stay in?
They're asking for people to stay in. The hospitals are becoming overwhelmed, so they're asking you to stay in.
Okay.
And avoid crowds. I see nothing wrong with the virtual party. Everybody's doing it. I had a virtual gala on Saturday that probably had almost 1,000 people at it. So, but the gathering pieces outdoors, I don't like them because, you know, COVID-19 is scary.
Yeah.
And the numbers are increasing every day. And I know we want to get out. I want to get out too. I don't know.
Well, which also brings up, Madam Chair, for our public meeting on schedule for Saturday. It's 70% chance of rain, but we're going to order tents, chairs, and speaker, all of that. So the question is,
what's Saturday?
Saturday is the a public meeting to talk about the memorial field.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I don't remember anybody making an announcement.
The concept. Part of the grant agreement requires that you share the concept with the community. In addition to that, we want to take the opportunity to include in there the Hamilton County's grant for additional sheriffs. So to talk about that at the same time while we had people gathering.
So that was supposed to be a in-person gathering?
Yes, on Saturday at 2 p.m. at Memorial Field.
I'm going to come to that event, even though I have no business out there in that weather, because I'm connected to the sheriffs and that grant just for support. You know, I really don't want to do that, but I'm going to support it. Ooh.
Does anybody feel that we should bring it into the council chamber because it's raining? No.
No, I think you need to just go ahead and have it out.
Okay.
It's gonna be a quick one because I think you might as well just go ahead and plan it on the field. It's not supposed to last, what, 2 hours?
No, it should be, it shouldn't take longer than an hour. We'll have hour and a half. So the way the agenda is written is that you will welcome, I will introduce myself and say a few things, and then it will be whoever's shorter, sheriffs or the, I think we want to make the memorial field the last, because that'll give an opportunity for people to give more input if we need to go over. So we'll talk about the sheriffs and then that. And then that's the end of the day.
Did we do a robocall?
Yes, and I'm going to.
I didn't get a robocall.
I didn't get one either, not this time.
Didn't? Okay.
I didn't get the last one either. I don't know if I got booted off the list or not.
Okay. So I was going to personally do the second one, which is Wednesday, and personally invite the community, introduce myself who I am, and not do a long spiel, but talk about, I would love to see them and meet them, personally meet them, if they could come out to the Memorial Park.
We might want to make sure that we hit the right part on that. Ooh, because I didn't get it. And I always usually get a robocall that it goes to everybody and not just certain groups. I didn't get that. But
You sent a flyer too, didn't you, Ms. Padrell?
There should be flyers out there printed. Ms. Pope?
I thought we sent them by email to everybody.
Yeah.
I don't
get nothing.
I don't know. I know the robocall went out Friday.
Yeah.
And it went out about 1 o'clock. So whatever time she did it, she didn't put a time on it. She just let it play instantly.
So, Ms. Pope, can we get the flyers printed and get the maintenance to kind of drop them off at the places that you would normally drop them off at? So that.
Yeah, I'll make sure that's done tomorrow.
Okay,
Can we
thank you.
get some up to the school?
You sure can.
I won't be there, but I'll let Patty know that you'll be bringing them.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Padra. Was that it for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Under miscellaneous business, we'll conclude. I don't have any miscellaneous business. Anybody else on the committee have any miscellaneous business, or mayor?
No, I'm good.
All right. Anybody? All right, we'll move on to announcements. I received a memo in my mailbox today, and Ms. Padra, you may, or Ms. Pope, one of you guys may have received it too. It was from the Municipal Planning Commissions in Hamilton County. It was a request for nominations for the Regional Planning Commission. Deadline was December 31st, 2020. I was a little confused about what they were asking for. I thought they were looking for a member from either our planning commission or our committee or our council or our village to be part of their group. So I called the executive director today, whose name is Steve Johns, to understand what they were requesting. Well, they have a 9-member group that's devised of 3 townships, 1 person from the city of Cincinnati, a couple people from other places, I forget where they're from, and then they have 1 opening spot, which is like an at-large spot from anybody within the county can request to be a part of. It's a 5-year term, and the individual named David Oakham, he's a member of the city of Springdale's Planning Commission. He's currently filling that seat. This is the open seat that anybody could apply for. And his term expires on March 5th, 2021. And so they're looking for nominations to be part of that committee to be voted upon. I'm not quite sure who votes, but they're saying that the nominee is required to be a member of Municipal Planning Commission, anyone other than the city of Cincinnati, and the elected representative will serve a 5-year term. A resume for each nominee must be submitted with your nominations. Nominations may be submitted from municipal planning commissions by letter or copy of your resolution or motion. I don't know if we have anyone that we want to recommend. I'm a firm believer that it makes sense from somebody from our area to be on these type of committees. We may not be in a position right now to be on these committees, but I bring this up because we want to be in the room when they're making these decisions. And so when I spoke to Mr. Johns, I was asking him additional questions like how often and what other committees are available for our members from our community to be on. I think we should have a seat at the table. Anything having to do with the county planning and development, we should have a seat at the table. I'm thinking he told me that Mr. Oakham, who is currently serving the role, would like to serve again for the next 5 years. That's fine and good. But if we have somebody that we want to submit, we have until December 31st to submit it. I would like for us to consider to submit someone. Even if they're not elected, we should be starting to look at submitting someone to sit at these positions so that our village is looked at when it comes to planning for the entire county. And I think we do a good job with connecting with them. I think the mayor, you've done a great job. I know the work that you've done. Ms. Pope did a great job. And I know Ms. Powdrell is developing those relationships that some of them she's already had, I'm sure, from the work that she's doing. But I would like to get one of our members there at the table. So consider that moving forward. If we want to make a recommendation, I'm going to take this letter back to City Hall and give it to Miss Randolph so that she can make a copy to give out to everyone, because I'm not sure who all got this. I just so happened to check my mailbox and it was in my mailbox today.
So, Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you interested in doing that?
I am not at this time.
Well, then that just killed off my recommendation.
And the only reason why I say I'm not at this time is because I know we have a lot that we're working on collectively right now. I know we have iron in the fire in some areas with Ms. Powdrill. I think we should look at a member of our planning commission and look at one of them to be recommended. That's my recommendation. So I know that we've identified additional members on that commission. If there's someone there who we want to recommend,
Okay.
That's up to us.
Is everyone
at this time? I'm not.
Is everyone active, Mayor?
There's like 3. There's 3 on there right now, and actually they should have a couple more years on there, but I think they were looking for another person because whoever's on the planning commission, one of them have to also be on the zoning. So there's 3. I know when they first were getting together, they had started trying to, before COVID, they had started trying to meet. But I know nothing has happened, but there are 3 that I can think of. I just got to,
Okay.
What other criteria? Do they have to have any other additional experience?
They didn't say any experience necessary. They just talk about if you want more information about the Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission, and they have a link to their website.
Okay.
But I think it's worth submitting
I think so
someone
too.
from the village, so that they will recognize that we're getting ready to be real serious.
Yeah, it's also going to allow them to get some experience because that was the gentleman. Actually, it's 4. It's 4 of them. There's Miss. I don't want to miss anybody. I think it's Mr. Hodge, Mr. Shockley, Mr. Hodge, Mr. Shockley, Miss Lindsay, and there's somebody else. But it's 4 of them on there. But they were talking about they're wanting to be able to learn additional information about planning. Only thing they've had under their belt so far is the group home that came. Okay. So that would, whoever, if we are to get someone, hopefully they'll be chosen. It's a great opportunity for them to learn what's, when it comes to planning, because especially we're going to be doing a lot of things in the village. It's a wonderful opportunity. If we could get someone from the village of Lincoln Heights, I will instruct Ms. Randolph with that letter, and we can send that along with the phone call to let them, get them on the phone. Hey, if you're interested, we're going to send this. The deadline's the 31st of December, right?
The deadline is, it says nominations for planning commissions will be accepted through December 31st, 2020.
Okay.
Mr. Oakham's, his term expires on March 5th, 2021. So it sounds like they would not take effect until March is what it sounds like based on this letter. But I'll definitely bring this letter back to the village so that we can submit a recommendation.
Okay. I think the other gentleman's name is Mitchell. I just thought about it. So I would love to see someone from Lincoln Heights, and those 3 gentlemen, they were very eager. They were like, we're going to meet, and they were very excited for being picked for the planning commission. So if we could get someone, I know we had talked about them going to other municipalities, learning more information about planning, because they only meet when something comes up, when someone wants to, So
well, they'll be meeting more now. They'll be meeting more now, considering we're looking at a lot of planning items moving forward.
Yeah. So we'll reach out to them this week.
Okay. Thank you. That was all I had. Any more nice announcements? Motion to adjourn is in order.
Oh, wait a minute. I'll call later. No, it has nothing to do with this. Yeah, I'll talk to Ms. Powdrill tomorrow.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
Motion
okay,
to
we all good?
in order. Properly moved in second.
Okay.
Have a great evening.
Good night.
Right.
Good night.
Ms. Powdrill, are you going to send me a link?
I can.
Pray for Miss Mitch. Pray for Miss Faber also, everybody.
No, I can't. I have to quarantine right now.
Okay, I'll send you a link. I'll send it from my personal email.
Okay,
All right.
right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Prayers for Ms. Baber.
Yes.
For sure.
Everybody pray,
Yes.
keep her in
Yes,
prayers.
yeah. Did she heard anything?
I reached
I
out
don't
to
know.
her. She said, okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay. I just saw the email, so I will definitely send her a text out. And y'all keep her in prayers and text her just to say, hey, we're thinking of you.
All righty. Thank
Thank
you.
All
you.
right.
Bye.
Take care. Be safe, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Uh-uh.